Oh, okay. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the final membership meeting of 2020. Sad. So, what do you? Oh, okay. Good morning and hello, PAAR members, all of you. Thank you all for joining us today. I want you to know that we are committed to providing you with the resources and need to be successful no matter the circumstances. Did you know that PAAR has all classes, including the CE classes, for free right now? So take advantage of that. And all designated classes are at a discount. Make sure to check your PAAR calendar that you can find on PAAR's new website. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a fantastic website, www.paar.org. And read your weekly update that Dan sends out every Saturday, and make sure you are following us on social media to find out which classes and events are coming soon. Okay, and so I've got a few announcements. First, PAAR now has a pickup station, if you're not aware. It's mounted right out front. Yes, right out in front of Nicole's window. So if you need to make a store purchase or purchase lock boxes but cannot pick it up until after the office is closed or on weekends, we have a solution. Call the PAAR office during business hours and make your purchase over the phone, and we will assign you one of our parcel boxes. Then you pick up your item on your own time from the assigned box using your Supra key. If you would like to see how this works, I'm not promoting my own video. There is a video out there you can watch to see how you get into the PAAR box, but it's very simple. It's just as though you're going to a listing. You just go in there, push the button, put in your code, and it will open up, and then you can get into your the box and grab your stuff and go on about your way. So it's a fantastic system. Really like it. And we've heard a lot of good things about it. In fact, there's other associations that are going to follow what we've done. And we kind of followed somebody else's, so fair is fair. We have our Coats for Kids donation going on now until December 14th. Drop your used new coats, sweaters, and other donations off at any participating realtor office. Sorry, make sure that they're clean. Okay, if they're going to give used ones, just make sure they're clean before you drop them off. And if you, for the locations or to add to box to your office, call AJ Sheridan, at 928-308-6780. So you can get boxes delivered to your office, or you can just call to find out where they're all located. There is one in the PAAR office, so you can, if you need to do business there, you can drop by there. Again, AJ Sheridan is at 928-308-6780. PAAR would like to recognize and give a big thank you to all our veterans. If you are a veteran, we would love for you to send us which branch you were in, Marine Corps, the years you served, 80 to 84, and a picture of you in the service. That might be tough. I have so many photos, but I don't know how many I could actually share. So send that information and your photos to Dan at paar.org. And Dan, the man, will put all that together for us so that we can recognize you as a whole for your service and dedication to our country. We would also like to invite you to the PAAR office to pick up your veterans pins if you haven't done so already. If you didn't know that they existed, yes, they're there for you. Just go on there and let them know what branch of service, and they have a pin to recognize you. So go ahead and go in there and get those. So now we will hear from our sponsors for today's event. First, I would like to ask our sponsor from Union Mortgage, Mick Soska. How come I can never pronounce your name, Mick? I don't. To say a few words. Please join me in welcoming Mick. We appreciate you and your business for all of your support this year.
Hey, no worries, Jeff. It happens all the time. Everybody tries to put the S and the Z in there, so just pick one and go with it. So it's Zoka. So you can either use the S or the Z, but don't try to use both. So that's what I always tell everybody. So thank you. Happy to be a sponsor this morning. You know, one of the things with next week being the week of Thanksgiving, I really, we've got a lot to be thankful for in our industry. We really, really do. I mean, all of us are extremely busy. We're in a great marketplace. And so just remember that. I mean, we were talking earlier about how crazy 2020 is, but I'll be personally, of course, phone rings right then, right? I'll be honest with you. 2020 is going to be the best year in the industry for my company, for most of the branches in our company, my branch, and myself personally. So, when Thursday comes around, be thankful for not only what we have professionally, but certainly what we have with friends, family, and so forth, because there's a lot of folks that are not having the best Thanksgiving. So one thing I wanted to bring to light, one specialty that we have is, I imagine most of you, at least some of you, are dealing with buyers that have to come in with offers, contingent offers, and that is not flying very well in our market. Is correct? It's not flying very well across any market in the United States. Well, we have a way to hopefully solve that in many situations, and that is our bridge loan. So we offer a bridge loan where the client can do a bridge on their current home and do the mortgage to purchase the new home. They close at the same time. We can lend up to 80% on their existing home, pay off their mortgage that they have there, and give them the rest of the proceeds to use as their down payment and closing costs on the purchase. So, simple example, let's say their house is worth $400,000. We go 80%, that's $320,000. Let's say they owe $200,000. That gives them $120,000 to put towards the purchase of the new house. The huge benefit here, there's several, but huge benefit is we don't use the bridge financing as in the qualifying on the new purchase. So any payment on the bridge financing doesn't qualify or doesn't get counted. Whereas if that same client was to take a home equity line of credit out against that house, now we have to qualify with that current mortgage payment, that home equity line of credit payment, and their new mortgage payment. Most people can't do that. So it's huge. Secondly, since these both close at the same time, the payment on the bridge loan, the first payment on the bridge loan, doesn't happen for approximately 45 days after they close. So, example, we close them both on, let's just use December 24th, for example. First payment on both mortgages wouldn't be until February 1st. Currently, we're at 97.6% of our clients that have used the bridge loan never have to make a payment on the bridge loan, because they list their house the week before they close on the new purchase. We verify that it's listed. We have to do an appraisal on their existing home, so we know how much it's worth. They list it, and in this market, they're turning so quickly on 30, 45-day contracts that they're closed before they have to make that payment. So just think about that. It's a great option. We cannot do them on manufactured homes, but we can do them on about any other type of home as far as that's out there. So thank you again for your time. If you'd like more information about the bridge loan, reach out to me. My number is 928-220-3504. And I am a proud member of the Women's Council of Realtors as well, and membership chairman for that. But today, since I am a sponsor, I'm speaking on behalf of Union Home Mortgage. So Ms. Carla Bonuro is going to be speaking about Women's Council of Realtors. But I just wanted to put that plug in that the organization is great. So.
Well, thank you so very much, Mr. Mick Zoka. Gotcha. Really am thankful for PAAR, and I'm thankful for all the friends that I've made through Women's Council of Realtors. PAAR has been absolutely fantastic with collaborating with our network, and it really is setting a precedence for other Women's Council of Realtors networks throughout not only our state, but the nation, as to how PAAR and the Prescott network work together. So we're really thankful for that. I just want to make certain to let some of you know that Women's Council of Realtors, I was actually invited to attend my first meeting by Mick Zoka, and I'm really glad that I did. And I have the honor of serving as president for this network again next year. And it really has, I have mentored others. I've been mentored, learning some leadership skills. I have referrals, the camaraderie, the education, the support system. I could go on and on. Of the reasons why you should join Women's Council of Realtors in Prescott. In addition to this being the top referral network, we also have some great member benefit programs, discount at Office Depot, discount on concert tickets, movie tickets, rental cars, hotels. I could go on with that as well. I do want to mention we have and I'm sorry, I don't know how to screen share, so here it is. Okay. Woo. Okay. We have November 30th. We have our winter welcome installation happy hour mixer. Right now, it is set up for a hybrid meeting in person and virtually, in conjunction with the December winter conference, which is held on the 1st and the 2nd for the state installation. And they have just changed theirs to virtual only. So we should know by the end of the day how we're going to proceed with our portion on November 30th. But please come and join us. If we do continue with in person, there will limit the number of attendees to 30 people to create a safe social distancing meeting. I also want you to save the date for December 6th. We'll have a Tony Robbins event, which will be approximately 90 minutes long. And then December 16th, we're going to have a panel and a panel network event. Don't ask me the time or the topic yet, but that will come later. So I just wanted to thank PAAR again, thank all the members, and I think at this time I need to say back to you, Bob. Oh, I mean Jeff. Back to you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. And as Mick and I can both attest, you don't have to be a woman to join the Women's Council of Realtors. So get out there and join. It's fantastic. Every time I go, I learn a lot. They have great speakers and events, and I am hoping to be at the installation. So whether it be virtual or in person. So I just want to thank you once again for our sponsorship, Union Mortgage, and of course the Prescott Area of Women's Council of Realtors. Please know how much we appreciate your commitment to our organization and our members. Without the support of our sponsors and partners like you, we would not be able to offer events like today. So I would like now to give the mic over to our 2021 President, Tina Seeley, to speak on behalf of volunteering for our 2021 committees.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. We know it's Friday and it's a little bit early for some realtors, but I just want to talk a little bit about volunteering and joining committees. I know I've done a video already. Some of you have probably already seen that. I also talked about it at the installation banquet, but I just feel like it's super important because nothing that we do at PAAR can be done without volunteers. And the most important work that we do is committee work. So I'm asking, pleading, begging, doing all that stuff, just asking for you all to join our committees. The applications are online at PAAR.org. It's real easy to find. I just did it this morning. I think the deadline is December 3rd. So if you're thinking about doing it, please make sure you get your applications in by December 3rd. The committees that we have, we just merged the government issues and the Realtor Party to one. Now it's just called Realtor Party. We have business services, MLS, MLS appeals, member engagement, finance, education, and community service and outreach. So if any of those sound like that's something that you would be interested in, we would love to have you. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Tina. And yeah, volunteering. So I've told the story many times, but Dan actually got me involved in the volunteership simply by sending out those emails constantly for people to apply for certain positions. And I saw so many emails that I thought maybe nobody was doing it. I didn't realize that it was just a regular thing. And so at the time I was all into my business. And so I decided, what the heck, I'll go ahead and do that. It's been a fantastic ride all the way, and will continue to be so because I don't plan on leaving the volunteership anytime soon. But my networking, getting to know people, it's a great way to get involved, but it's a great way for your own personal business too. And knowing who it is that you're talking to on the other side of that phone, and being involved in the community and our government affairs here in the state and nationally. So if any of those, like Tina said, if any of those positions interest you, please volunteer. We love to have you. The more the merrier. And December 3rd is when we're now. If after that, down the line, you're thinking, okay, I've got some time. Maybe they'll take me. Yes, we'll take you. Let us know, and we'll bring you in. Okay. So before we get started, please make sure to share your questions and comments in the chat box. I noticed a lot of people are adding a few chats in there. I haven't seen any questions so far, but make sure you do that. And please know we will try to answer all of your questions as the time permits. Today, PAAR is excited to bring you the mayors of Prescott and Prescott Valley with the state of city addresses. So first with us is Prescott Mayor Greg Mangiarelli. Greg has close tie to our realtor community because of Sheila. And so thank you, Greg, for taking time today to be with us. And I'll give you the mic.
All right, thank you so much. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. Great to be with you all, and wish we could actually be in one room together. We look forward to that day, and I'll be the first down at the New Year's Eve celebration to give 2020 the boot down there, maybe at 10 p.m. and midnight, both. Leading off, I'd like to say I'm happy to have delivered a Badger jersey to my good friend Mayor Palguda because the Badgers beat the Bears in our crosstown rival. So I'm sure he'll get some jabs in later on me since he goes after me, but appreciate the wager, and go Badgers. Hey, want to just run through a few slides and then happy to answer any questions you have. So lots of cool things happening in our city, particularly around businesses wanting to move to Prescott, which is good for you all, in my opinion. So if we go to that next slide there, aerospace and tech really are areas that we're seeing businesses want to come here. So CP Technologies, military hardware, software, drone manufacturer, they are moving here. They're on the north end of Prescott building right now. Jim Chamberlain's building them a building, and they will be in there, I think, first quarter of next year. Lots of jobs coming there, about 50 jobs initially, but then more to follow. So they're out of San Diego. Aviation, you've already heard about, and they're still planning on coming to Prescott. And then Catalyst is a startup from Embry-Riddle. And we have an incubator right now where we're seeing 2 or 3 new businesses starting up here in Prescott, and we're helping them out get started here in the aerospace and tech spaces. So really good stuff. We've courted a few other businesses that have come to town from California. You can imagine with all the regulation, over regulation, and just the encroachment on small business or business in general in California. We're seeing a lot of these businesses show up over here, and so we're hoping to continue to see these kinds of businesses move here. You can move to the next one there. Hilton Garden Inn, new hotel going in. This is a place that would be, I think, a great option to entertain folks from out of town for you all if they're looking to buy here in Prescott. This is about 100 rooms. This area, as you all know, was really kind of an armpit, to be quite honest. It was a real problem area for us in the city. This new hotel incorporates the railroad train trestle into the design. There will be a new park on the north side of the hotel. And then really cool, the Sam Hill warehouse could be a place that you all could have some of your meetings for PAAR. It should seat, I think, around a few hundred in the Sam Hill warehouse, but it's kind of a treasure that hadn't been used that they're renovating. And so this whole area is going to be totally revitalized as a result. This also sits right on the Granite Creek corridor, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We can talk just briefly about United Airlines. I think you all know what's going on with United. You know, we've kind of struggled through the pandemic, but they still have been flying. We go daily to Denver and LA, actually twice to Denver per day. And so we did reach our 10,000 enplanements and you know, excited to continue that expansion, particularly once we get out of the pandemic. We have a new airport terminal going in out there at the airport. We hope to cut the ribbon on that thing. You can flip to the next slide. The terminal will be open probably in April. And then with that, we're excited to say that we're also expanding the runway. And so trying to just continue the efforts out in the airport region to make sure that we have great access to Prescott, and also for our firefighting capabilities out there. So that's why we're expanding the runway. Let me talk a little bit about some new initiatives. I touched on the fact that Catalyst is a new company that's starting here in Prescott, and we're working on a Center for the Future Business Incubator. You might have heard about that. We're going to use the CARES Act money for that Center for the Future. That will be located out near the airport. But in the meantime, we're doing kind of a proof of concept of the incubator, and we have some businesses right here in some of our city administrative space that are starting right now with some we're giving them reduced rents, subsidizing their rent so that they can get started. And so excited about those startups. The Granite Creek improvements, we did this plan like in 2018 to clean up the Granite Creek corridor to make it more accessible. And so now finally we just passed through the council the appropriation for all of the funding for the Granite Creek improvements. So that'll be happening in 2021, and that'll go all the way from Hilton Garden Inn all the way to Mile High Middle School. We're working on a North Prescott master plan. And, you know, if you think about Embry-Riddle and the Phippen Museum, kind of, if you draw a line east to west, everything north of there, we're really trying to figure out what does that all want to look like. You know, we have a lot of growth out there, but this really could be an opportunity for a separate commerce center, kind of an uptown versus downtown kind of feel. So we want to think about all the infrastructure, all the traffic flow, and what that wants to look like. So we do have a consultant in place to help us with that master plan, and we look forward to seeing that come together next year, and maybe some of you will be helping us as we look at that North Prescott master plan. Also doing some marketing and advertising around particularly businesses, like I was talking about with businesses coming from California. We're really marketing and doing a campaign to target those folks, as well as tourism and of course economic development. Let's see what's next here. Arizona Eco Development. You probably have not heard about this. AED, you can see the LOI here, and I'm not going to really go through all the details of this, but essentially it preserves 475 acres of the Point of Rocks and those important iconic rocks that we want to preserve. Gives us a bunch of land, 270 acres around the airport. And then it's really a land for water trade. So what's happening is Mr. Giese is giving up his surface water right from Watson Lake, which is about 375 acre feet. We are giving 753 acre feet of groundwater in trade for all this land that he's giving us in the Dells as well as around the airport. So I just think it's a great win for Prescott. It's been a long road, but I'm hopeful that we can work on a development agreement here in December. We have a negotiating team of myself, Alexa Scholl, and Kathy Rusing that will be working on a development agreement negotiation. And we hope to bring that to the council early next year, and then to the public, and then out for a vote to the council, I hope in the first quarter of next year. Let me just dispel some mistruths out there. You know, people were upset that the DA wasn't a part of the 60-day public comment period. The DA, we haven't received back from the applicant, so there was no way we could have gone public with it because it's still a working draft and we haven't received the first draft back from the applicant. We will give that its time in the public once we get it negotiated between the council and the applicant. I think, you know, what we have to remember here is these main deal points, we have to just know that we're going to build a development agreement around these primary LOI agreements. And I'm hopeful that we can get to a deal. I think this is good for Prescott. It's good for the region. It's good for our aquifer to be able to provide city water and sewer so that we can do recharge back into our aquifer. So hopeful for next year. I can't put a timeline on this thing because I've tried and it never works. But if you want more information, there is a link down here on this slide that you can get more information. Let's turn to Christmas City events here. You know, with the pandemic, these things are always difficult to try to navigate, right? You know, we went through the summer and we canceled some stuff. We did have the rodeo and an arts and crafts fair and some other things down on the plaza. And we've never had anything traced back to those outdoor events, which is good. These are the events that we know at this point that we're going to do. And we're hopeful that people will use good common sense and personal responsibility. That's something that Mayor Palguda and I have been preaching all through this pandemic, is we feel like if we give you good information, you guys will make good decisions and we don't have to do a mandate because we trust that you're out there making good decisions with good information. So we have a holiday light parade that's coming up November 28th. That's 6 o'clock, and then there'll be a bonfire at Mile High Middle School. The traditional parade on December 5th at 1 o'clock will happen. We did the Veterans Day parade recently, as you're probably aware, and we felt really good about people distancing along that parade route. So that worked pretty well. The courthouse lighting we're going to do, but at this point they're planning virtual right now. They're just concerned about the very large crowd and everybody crowded together there on the plaza. So at this point, that will probably be a virtual event. Charlotte Hall Museum has their Frontier Christmas as normal on their grounds. Acker Night will happen on the 11th of December. It will look very different. It'll be all outdoors and mainly on Whiskey Row. And so you won't be going into all the little shops to hear the music that way. It'll be outside. Enchanted Christmas is happening at Prescott Gateway Mall. And like I said, Whiskey Row Boot Drop, I'll be down there giving 2020 the boot. So I think that's really everything I had. There's some rankings here that you guys are probably familiar with that could be helpful for you as realtors in terms of marketing Prescott. But any questions you have would be great, and I can flip open my chat here. Maybe that's the best way to do this. I don't know if folks are.
Hey, Greg, we had 2 questions. Ashley, one of our realtors, Ashley Ivy, would like to know the company you referenced from San Diego, what the name of it was.
Yeah, it's called CP Technologies, or Combat Proven Technology. And so they do software and hardware for the military. And then they're also expanding into drone technology, and hopefully we're getting them an airstrip they can use for that out in Seligman.
And the other question we had was, could we share your PowerPoint slides with the realtors after the event?
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I do not see any other questions. Staff, do we have anything on Facebook Live that I'm not seeing? No, I don't think so. So thank you so much. And I'm going to pass it to Jeff and let you guys finish up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mayor. And many of you may not know this, but Greg's quite an auctioneer. And we did not have the trail ride this year for the rodeo. So that was unfortunate, but maybe next year. So expect a phone call.
Yeah, I remember doing that out there. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It was. And thank you for doing that. So moving on. Next, we have the Prescott Valley Mayor, Kel Palguda. Sorry. Kel is a realtor in our community and is amazing. It is amazing to see members of our realtor family stepping up and becoming champions in office. We appreciate you spending time with us this morning. Take it away, Kel. Kel, you there?
Can everyone hear me now?
There you go. There you go.
Here we go. So like this Zoom thing like isn't really normally my thing, so just bear with me, okay?
I hear you.
So shout out to Mayor Mangarelli for being so gracious and modest when it comes to accepting his bringing the Prescott Badger jersey to council. So that was nice. I don't know if any of you saw the pictures on Facebook. Go check them out. But next year I advised the mayor that when Bradshaw wins, we'll be bringing the marching band and the cheerleaders down to Prescott Council. So be sure to pay attention to that. I figure, folks, I don't have a PowerPoint for you, but I just want to touch on a few things that as realtors would probably be interest to you folks. As I'm sure you guys all know, out in Prescott Valley, things have been going at a pretty modest rate in regards to construction. And one of the big things that Prescott Valley has been working on right now is our apartments. And we currently have, for those familiar with it, Talking Glass Apartments over by the Event Center. Those are currently at 100% rented out. So there is 0% vacancy there, and we are continuing to build more apartments. You'll notice over there on the corner of Glassford and Longlook, it's a Mandalay, I believe it's the Fanes are working on it in regards to bungalows. So they're smaller rentals where people can have independent living in a much smaller footprint. So you'll see the rental market there between the 800 and 1,000 square foot right there on the corner. So that's important. And when we're talking about growth and construction, we also have Jasper Homes going over on the west side of Granville. And for those of you that haven't been over there, Jasper's doing an amazing job. They're bringing a different product over to our area that you don't quite see in regards to homes. We're currently in Prescott Valley going at a rate of about 40 new construction homes permits a year, or a month, I'm sorry. So 40 a month is pretty darn good. And then if you compare it to what we had in 2006, we were going at over 100 a month back then. So keep that in mind, that we are not nearly at that rate, but yet we're still comfortably producing product and putting it out on the market. And as I'm sure many of you are aware, the inventory just isn't quite there like it used to be. So everything that comes on is almost like a cage fight when it comes to getting buyers out there, I'm sure. So Despite COVID, we've had a 12% increase in our receipts for sales. So that's really great news. We were obviously being very conservative at the start in early April in regards to what we could maybe expect was going to be a downturn in money. But what it seems to be is a lot of people stayed home and a lot of people had retail therapy at home. And Amazon, if any of you are like my wife, I think the Amazon truck driver knows us by name and comes to our house almost daily with Amazon packages. So that certainly has helped with sales receipts. When we're looking at commercial properties, we're currently building an Alliance Home Improvement store over off of Glassford Hill. Many of you will see it. It's about 60,000 square feet, and it'll be a cross between a Home Depot and an Ace with a lumber yard. So really great addition to Prescott Valley, especially with what we discussed in regards to construction. So, and then many of you might have heard that we have a little battle of chicken restaurants coming to Prescott Valley. We have Church's Chicken as well as Popeye's Chicken coming to Prescott Valley. So Popeye's, we just approved at council last week in regards to their building at the Home Depot crossroads right there by Sprouts. We'll be building an independent store. And then Church's Chicken will be on the opposite end of town near Navajo and Highway 69. And they are also looking at putting in a Great Western hotel on that footprint as well. So that's a really, really great news. It's exciting when just new businesses want to come about into our area. So I want to touch on a little bit in regards to what Greg mentioned with the new businesses and new companies wanting to come to the area. That is so important for not only Prescott, but for our Quad City area, because let's face it, folks, people can live in Chino Valley and still work in Prescott Valley or still work in Prescott. So that's what makes it so great when we work as a team and we're not fighting and having issues between different communities. So that's important for everyone that's moving to our area. What else we have going on? We have a new commercial area also going up in the north end of Prescott Valley off of Viewpoint Drive as you head to Pronghorn and Viewpoint. There'll be a new convenience store, A&W root beer restaurant, and more commercial space up there as well. As I'm sure you probably hear in Prescott Valley, the north end people in the Viewpoint and Pronghorn, Mingus West, out by Legend Hills, those are all areas where people are earning to try to get commercial into their area. Otherwise, it's a 30-minute drive into town. So that's exciting for that area. We're hoping to be able to expand even further north of 89A. So that's good. I see someone made a comment with the El Pollo Loco in the chicken fight. I don't know. I mean, it's almost like a gang war right now is what we have going on when it comes to the chicken battles. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. I mean, I've seen things on YouTube where like Popeye's employees will do drive-bys and throw chicken sandwiches at Chick-fil-A. So I don't know what's quite going to happen. So let's hope everyone can get along, right? One exciting event that we'll be having in 2021 is we've been working very diligently on bringing a YMCA to Prescott Valley. As many of you can probably agree, a YMCA is a huge staple of any community and is important to Prescott Valley. So thanks to the generosity of the Fain family, we have approximately 5 acres that's been donated just south of Bob Edwards Park, which is on the corner of Viewpoint and Long Look, right by the library and the Civic Center. So that's where the YMCA is going to go. We're finishing up in regards to the final design, and then we'll be moving on to how we'll fund it and how we'll get it to go vertical. So that is very exciting. All the models that we've done and the studies that we've done, we had a company that's all they do is just YMCA studies, and they sent out surveys and did interviews, and they said they have never had such a positive response from the community as they have from our area in regards to a YMCA. So that'll also benefit the Prescott residents that use the YMCA as well, because it'll lighten the load of those that live in Prescott Valley that have been visiting the YMCA in Prescott. So it'll kind of make it better for both YMCAs. So I see another question. Any plans for workforce housing in the $200,000 to $300,000 price range? So for independent living or independent homes, there's nothing that's coming down the pipeline. And it's challenging from, building a house point of view. costs are still there. And from what I've been hearing from builders, a sheet of plywood went from $9 a sheet to $26 a sheet in the past 60 days. So if you think about that, with just lumber prices alone raising up, it's definitely challenging. And then we have some workforce housing apartments coming in to the north end of Prescott Valley, which is targeting the teachers and first responders and people that are just trying to work and live in their community, because I think that's huge, because we have currently talking to educators and over at Humboldt Unified School District, we have teachers regularly that come to Prescott Valley, want to work for Humboldt Unified School District, and then they can't find a great place to live, and therefore they have to go back to wherever they're from. And we're losing good quality people like that, and that shouldn't be the way it is. You should be able to work and live in your community, and that's what we're hoping for. What else we got? YMCA would love to be involved. What do we got? Oh, yes. So that'd be great. Yeah, because the YMCA is going to be huge. They're going to be bringing in partners. They're going to have a huge meeting space, and things like PAAR is always involved with the community. So that's terrific. And also one other project that is coming on is a 55,000 square foot indoor, basically pickleball court in Prescott Valley. So the whole goal is pickleball is an amazing sport, as I'm sure many of you know, and it's the #1 sport that's been increasing in popularity. So we're going to be creating that indoor space. It's going to have large meeting room as well, and indoor restaurant, that whole thing. So that's going to be located directly across from the event center. So that's going to be important. That's going to be probably breaking ground in early spring of 2021. And then finally, we of course have the event center here. A little tidbit of information just for you country lovers out there. Scotty McCreery, April 9th, coming to Prescott Valley. So, and he'll be live in-house. We'll be definitely spacing it out. It won't be a seating like you're used to, but it'll be a live concert. So check that out. If you're into country music, Scotty McCreery, April 9th. And of course, you might have heard that we've had the Northern Arizona Wranglers, which is an indoor football league team that will be coming to Prescott Valley. Their first game is April 3rd. And this is a great event. This is something that's really going to be coming to Prescott Valley. It's in the same category as the Rattlers down in Phoenix. And down there, they get 10 to 12,000 people at a game. So it's going to be an exciting experience. We're going to be doing tailgating at the event center, and it's just going to be a great family atmosphere. So be sure to check that out as well. So we got any other questions? I'm looking here. What we got going on? Heights Church progress. So yes, so they have a Heights Church took over the old Albertsons or Hagen's building right there by Sonic on Lake Valley. They've been renovating it. They were supposed to be in that space by September, but with COVID, things have always kind of changed the timeline a little bit, and they bumped over to, we'll be looking at a spring for them to be getting involved. So they're still doing some projects out in the parking lot, helping with food boxes and things like that, but they'll be getting people actually indoors, hopefully in the spring of 2021. So that's great. What else we got here? Holiday Lights drive-through. Yeah, so like the perfect event if you want to be self-isolated and not be around people, right? So you can just go do our Valley of Lights, stay in your car. It's a mile drive. Check out all the new displays. They've added a ton this year. So it's a great opportunity. It's free. They ask for a donation at the end, but I guess if you want, just don't roll your window down and just look straight ahead, I guess, if that works for you too. You won't have to give any money. But please check it out. It's a great opportunity to bring the kids. I go through it probably 6-7 times with the kids, so it's fun. We will be having a holiday lighting at our Civic Center, as well as our light parade. That'll be this Friday. I believe it's December 3rd. Starts at 5 o'clock. So please, if you like, come on out, check that out. It's going to look a little different than last year, but nonetheless, the staff has done an amazing job with the lights around this entire complex, not just our building, but down the street of Lakeshore and things like that. So check that out. What else we got here? Walking through the lights will be, I believe, check with the Chamber of Commerce, but I believe it will be next Tuesday, where you can actually go on foot and check it out. So that's a great time too. You get to park, go walk it. You get hot chocolate, kind of just mingle. You go at your own pace. So check that out. And for those of you not familiar with it, it's down by Fane Park. off of 2nd Street, right when you come into town. So you turn at Prescott East Highway and hit 2nd Street over by the bowling alley.
Hey, Kel, we have a couple other questions that you missed. One,
Yeah.
where is the pickleball going to be located?
Pickleball court, the indoor one will be located Lake Valley and Florentine, just north of Pruitt's and just west of the hospital. They're also looking at having there'll be an RV park there but the RV park's a little bit different. It's not like an RV park you see maybe up by the fairgrounds or the racetrack. It's a minimum value of the RV has to be $200,000 or more. You can only stay a minimum amount of time. Apparently they've done some research and there's like groups of individuals that have these RVs that like to travel around the country and they just like to play pickleball. So for whatever it's worth, those will be the individuals that will be coming to this RV park. And again, it's not long-term. I think the max they can stay is 10 days or 14 days or something like that. But it'll be great. It'll create a little more livelihood down in the center of town. What else we got going on here?
Another realtor would like to know, he used to be on the chair of the YMC down in the valley, and he said, have y'all explored partnerships with like local teams? They did one similar to like the Suns, but have you thought about any kind of partnerships that you could do to help get the YMCA established?
Yeah, so we are looking at that. And also for that realtor, we're also looking at people that we're going to be putting on our new board as well. So if it's something they're interested on jumping on a new board at a ground level for a new YMCA, I'm sure Damon Olson over at the Y in Prescott would love to just hear from him and see if there's a fit for him to jump on board. That would be great. And the Suns, they were really amazing already in the town of Prescott Valley. They helped out with the Boys and Girls Club. They were instrumental in creating that new auditorium over there at the corner of Robert and Luce by Mountain Valley Park. So it was a great basketball court addition, thanks to the Suns and thanks to the Fain family over there. So what else? Anything to work for the old Sam's Club space? So the old Sam's Club space, and I'm not quite sure on this. I heard a rumor last week that someone mentioned that it was currently pending or under contract. So it's interesting because they've had offers before on the building, and as many of you know, Walmart owns the building, so they will not sell to a competitor. So if it's another grocery store, they just flat out won't sell to them, which I don't know. I mean, I get it from a business point of view, but I'm pretty confident if a grocer came in there, Walmart still going to do okay. But nonetheless, they get to make that call. And also over there in the Crossroads, there was another company that wanted to come in and put indoor storage. And many of you don't know this, and I didn't know this until recently, that each business over in the Crossroads with Kitchell, they all get a vote and they get to veto whether or not they think that would be beneficial to their area. And obviously they want to draw more shoppers over there, and they didn't feel that was something that would be beneficial. So that got voted down. But like I said, if anyone knows for sure, I did hear it was pending. So I don't know, might be just a rumor, but it was another realtor telling me that they had a client that was interested and they were super bummed that it was pending. So it seemed pretty good information. What else we got? Not necessarily with the Suns, but other sport enterprises. So yeah, so with the YMCA, I'm sure we are going to be able to shop it around. And I'm sure many of you know with building a YMCA, it takes a lot of involvement. It's not something that's cheap. We're looking at between a $25 million and $30 million build. And it's going to take a lot of partners to get involved and get that to where it needs to be. The town of Prescott Valley is certainly looking at ways that we can help out as well. What else?
I think that's it, Kel.
Is that everything? Kind of scrolling through here.
Banner Hospital update.
What was that? I'm sorry. Can we get a Banner Hospital update? Is Mayor Greg?
Yeah, Greg, are you still here? Looks like he is.
I know they are. Oh, is he still? Is Greg not here? No. I don't want to really comment on what they got going on. So.
Yeah. Will Ashley, because you had a question about the mall too, which would also be in Prescott. I will follow up with Greg and see if we can get some answers to that. I'm guessing he must have had to step away from the computer to do some great business for the city of Prescott because he is still in the room but not able to get back in.
Anything else, guys?
Okay, well, fantastic. I appreciate it, Cal. I guess I'm gonna have to Google pickleball. I know
You
what
gotta
that's
Google
all
it. It's the thing of the future, apparently. So
Is it?
you
Okay,
should-
at least
apparently, I
in
don't
my
know.
future, is it a senior thing?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if you fall into the senior category, but it's for all ages. I should say that. But
Oh, is it? Okay, all right.
you
Well,
gotta drive by Pioneer Park, drive by Santa Fe Park in the morning, and you will see them packed out with people playing pickleball. So it's
I'll be darned.
a big thing. So again, guys, thanks for joining us, or having me join you at least anytime. Love talking to you. Love talking about Prescott Valley.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So thank you so very much to both of you. We are so lucky to not only have your leadership, but to have both of you as part of our Realtor family. And I know this information will be valuable to all of us. There was a lot of information here, fantastic information. So we really appreciate it. So please now, or please know how much we appreciate you. So moving on, I am so fortunate to be introducing our next two speakers. Bruce Bender, Senior Vice President of Bender Consulting Services, and Lynn Whitman, Yavapai County Flood Control District Director, to talk to us about the ongoing flood mapping project with the Yavapai County Flood Control District and how this will affect the real estate industry. I will let either one of you jump in first, Bruce or Lynn, whichever you guys probably flipped a coin this morning, so go right ahead.
I will be first, and he was going to run the PowerPoint, but it looks like we may. Oh no, there he is. Hi, Bruce.
I'm here. Yeah. Can someone let me share my screen? It says host disabled participant screen.
Hey,
sharing.
I'm Bruce. I'm on it right now. Just give me 1 second.
Okie doke.
We appreciate the opportunity to be here. We've always had a really good relationship with the realtors in the Prescott area, and this always is one of our more popular presentations. We really appreciate being able to come back again this year, even though we can't, physically come back this year.
Bruce, I'm having a little technical difficulties. It's not giving me that option, so just give me 1 second and I'll try to get that.
I have a share screen option. Do you want me to try mine?
Yeah, but when you click on it, it says host disabled.
Oh, yep, you're right. Well, I could get started on some things.
Yeah, we're working on the technical difficulties. We'll try to get that sorted out for y'all as soon as we can.
Okay, absolutely. So a community joins the National Flood Insurance Program when they get their first flood insurance rate map. So for the city of Prescott, that was in 1978. In the town of Prescott Valley, that was in 1982. And for Yavapai County, that was in 1985. And these dates are important because regulation rules and flood insurance rules vary depending on whether a house was built prior to this date or after this date. So it's just something that's always good for us to know. And there we are. Oh, yes, I'm Lynn Whitman, the director of the Yavapai County Flood Control District. So if we could go up one more then. Oh, 77. So then the next one, please. The community rating system is a great program where we, as a community, get points for everything we do above and beyond what's required as part of the National Flood Insurance Program. And for the points that we get, we move up a class. And for every class we move up, we save the residents money on their flood insurance premiums. So in the city of Prescott, they're a class 8. They save 10% for anybody who's within the special flood hazard area, 5% for everybody else. In Yavapai, we're class 7, so those savings are 15 and 5%. As a matter of fact, one of the things we get credit for is outreach and speaking to the communities about flood insurance. So we're getting credit today for this presentation. So you can rest easy tonight knowing that you helped the citizens of Yavapai County save money on their flood insurance premiums. Next one, please. So for us at the Flood Control District, we use the maps to understand the flood risk better. Next one, please. This is an example. On the left is a map that we received back in 1985, and then what it looks like electronically in GIS on the right. And While the maps were really good for the technology and the information they had at the time, you can see when you overlay it in the real world, there are areas where it doesn't even line up with the creek. And so part of the reason we do these remapping projects is to get these types of things corrected. Next, please. We have several reasons for map changes. One of them is land development. As communities build and grow, it changes the patterns where the water runs through, the volume of water that comes through. There are natural changing drainage patterns. You know, we've got these alluvial fans down at the base of the mountains that move it all around, and water is forceful. It likes to create its own path sometimes. We have better topography, and it's getting better all the time. Now we've got LiDAR. And then we've also got better modeling software. You know, just as technology improves, so does everything that goes with it. So we'll probably continue to analyze maps as long as, you know, we're in this industry. Next, please. This is what the current flood insurance rate maps look like. And while they're a lot better than the old ones, they have the aerial background so you can see where a structure is compared to the flood hazard area. We also have all of this electronically. And so we really suggest people come in and talk to us and look at the maps that we have online so we can see a lot more detail and give them a lot better information. Next, please. So the main reason we wanted to have me here today was so we could talk to you about the current mapping projects we have going on. Next one, please. This is a project in the city of Prescott. So the county is actually not involved, but we got this map from the engineers over there. It was a cooperating technical partner program study that it's a grant program that comes through FEMA. It's restudying all of these creeks you can see here: Granite, Butte, Miller, and then the Virginia Street Wash. It's just now starting, so they expect to submit this to FEMA at the end of next year, 2021, and probably be effective at the end of 2022. But just so you know, as this comes through, you'll be getting a lot more information, but these floodplains will be changing. Next, please. In the county, we did a Zone A Phase 3. This is actually up in Cherry. The one in the purple is up in Cherry, and then the one in the red is at I-17 and 169. And these are Zone A's that were kind of like that first map I showed you where the maps were kind of just shifted or off, that all we've done is correct these. And so these are actually going effective at the end of this month. All of the property owners have been notified. Everyone knows this is happening, but starting December 1st, these maps will be effective. Next, please. Zone A Phase 2, it's kind of going backwards. This one's not going to be effective until December 17th, but because it was a much bigger project, but it included parts of Ash Fork, Skull Valley, part of the Hacienda. It's approved, it's final, it's just waiting for the effective date. They give us 6 months on these bigger projects to make sure we have our ordinance and everything up to date. And next, please. Prescott Valley also has a CTP project going on, and this is for all of the panels, all of the maps that touch Prescott Valley. In 2010, FEMA decided to move to an electronic format, and in doing so, some of the floodplains shifted. And so this is a part of Quailwood, and when Quailwood was designed, it was designed for all of the structures to be outside of the floodplain area. And you can see up in the top right, there's a gap in the floodplain. That's supposed to be where the road is. So in the 2010 maps, that all got shifted, and it put some of the houses back into the floodplain incorrectly. So Prescott Valley put this together with another CTP grant to get all of these corrected and take all those houses back out. And this one just finished the appeal period, but so now it's in final production over at FEMA. And I believe that was it. Is there a questions one? So that's what I have on the mappings. Before we move over to Bruce, did anyone have questions on that? I'm not seeing anything. So with that, I'll pass.
No, I don't see any.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I'll pass it over to Bruce Bender. He is an flood insurance specialist, and he works with the Association of State Flood Managers on a national level to help direct insurance policies, and he works with FEMA. And so he's a really great resource. We've got him here in Arizona, and we rely on him for a lot of information. So I'll give it to Bruce.
Okay, I just want to make sure I pulled up your old presentation there,
Oh.
Lynn. So,
No.
so
Perfect.
do you see the question screen?
I do. Thank you.
Okay. And do you see the my screen, my next?
There it is. Yep.
Okay. So thanks so much. I greatly appreciate it. Again, my name is Bruce Bender. I am an outreach and insurance specialist that I've been working with the county and the district for many years. Also work nationally with the National Risk Map Program, the flood insurance marketing program known as Flood Smart, and others. And what I've discussed in the past in some past meetings is about what the effects of these map changes are, and I've done that several times. What is happening, we're seeing more of, is an increase in the number of private flood insurance policies, non-federal. For many years, the pricing of the NFIP policy was so low, and you had discounts and other things, that it just was not cost effective for private companies to come in. But then some legislation passed in 2012 and 2014 that reformed the NFIP and actually encouraged the private flood insurance industry to start looking into the possibility. So I thought I would take this time with you to let you know about the alternatives to the NFIP. Now, what does FEMA think about private flood? They are actually for it. And here's the reason why. The more people that can be financially protected with flood insurance means more people recover quickly, your community, county become more resilient, and that's less taxpayer dollars going out to pay for those people to recover. So it's kind of win for everybody. But you'll see at the end of this, there's a couple areas that I want to make sure that you're aware of as a realtor when you start hearing about somebody getting private flood, or even yourself may be considering. So let's do that. And if you think about, we usually say homeowners insurance policies don't cover damage due to flooding, so you got to buy an NFIP policy. But in reality, that now, because of the increase in the private market, we now say most homeowners, because we are seeing that there are some homeowners policies that may cover some degree or certain zones for flooding. But before I go forward, let me bring you back a ways. Lynn had talked about technology back in the 80s. Let's go back to the 70s, okay? Do you remember the 70s, those bell-bottom pants? How many of you here might have, that are in my age category, had a shirt like that, and if you got a flame too close to it, it might melt. Remember those TV shows? The MASH, was that not fabulous? Or the Jeffersons and Mary Tyler Moore, my gosh, you couldn't wait to hear it and watch the comedy, and of course to hear John Boy everybody say goodnight, John Boy. So there's some fabulous, memorable shows. And the technology, that calculator was like, wow, it can do sines and cosines and great math things that would take forever on a slide rule or by hand. And the computers, that was the cutting edge of computers down there at the bottom of the screen. And remember the brick? That was our cell phone. And how many of you in my age category played the first computer game? Pong. You just watched it go back and forth and you tried to put a spin on it. That's what technology was like. That's how things were like back then when the NFIP program, the rating program we have today, was created. Yes, it was passed in '68, but the rating program we have today was based on technology and things we had going on back in the late 70s. So a lot has changed. But with that program, here's where we are with the NFIP today. It's a very complicated program, probably over 100 questions that could be asked to underwrite a policy. Part of that is because the government has gotten involved. I'm not bashing the government, but what happened is they saw, like in 2012 and 14, that this program is bankrupt or upside down. They need to make it financially solid. So they made some decisions on doing that. And hence it's actually made it a more complicated product in some cases. Whereas your homeowners covers a lot of things, flood is a single peril, and the NFIP has limited basement coverage. So I know many of us don't have basements in Arizona, but for those that do, a lot of people, like I grew up in New Hampshire and then in Virginia, and the basement was where we hung out when the winter was crazily cold or the summer was so humid, you just kind of laid on the basement floor to stay cool. Those items, the ping pong table, etc., limited basement coverage down there. The paneling my dad put up would not be covered, which it was probably time to get taken down anyway, but limited basement coverage. FEMA has to write all policies, whether you've had lots of losses, whether you happen to be built 4 feet lower than you're supposed to be, they have to write all policies. And as opposed to homeowners where most of us are used to getting replacement costs, here we have limited replacement cost. Only like single family principal residences can get it, and residential condos. That's it. Everything else is cash value, which is actual cash value, which is the depreciated value of it. Low limits. We have been stuck at for homes, 250,000 for building and 100,000 for contents for years, decades, in fact. So meanwhile, as you all know, being realtors, the price of homes continue to go up and up and up. And this program provides subsidized or discounted rates. You know about grandfathering, perhaps. You know that buildings built before the first flood map, they're known as pre-firm. They're subsidized. They're subsidized by other policyholders, not subsidized by you and I taxpayers, but they're not paying their full premium. They're paying about 40% discount of what they're supposed to be. Why? Because Congress said back in 1968, when the program was created, hey, these people built by the creek and they didn't know not to elevate, or maybe they shouldn't build their nose. So let's not penalize them. Let's not charge full risk rates. Well, that has changed with the legislation, reform legislation in 2012 and 14. We're starting to see those pre-firm buildings go up and up and up in premium, but still they're discounted, and there's fees and surcharges. Right now, every policy gets a $250 Homeowner Flood Insurance Affordability Act surcharge, and I won't go into the details for that, except for primary residences, they're at 25 bucks. Plus there's policy fees and everything. So it's become a very complicated program. But as mentioned, with the advent of the legislation, things are changing. But even with all of that, we have a flood insurance gap. Right now, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that floods cause about $20 billion worth of damage a year, of which only about 15% or 16% they estimated is actually covered by the NFIP. So a lot of people are unprotected. In another study, it showed that probably 85% of the homeowners out there are not covered. That translates to about a $10 billion protection gap, according to Swiss Re. That's huge. It is so big that FEMA has put that into their strategic plan that they need to close the gap. But this program is over 50 years old and we still haven't closed the gap. But now with all of these changes, we now see the private market coming in place. When I was managing an insurance company down here in the Valley, we were one of the top writers, and I decided, let's create an excess flood program. And that is something writing above that $250,000 limit, because we had homes across the US that were much more expensive than the 250. In doing so, I identified that there was only about 10, 12 maybe programs back in the late 90s writing private flood from $0. Now today, that's over 50. That's not over 50 different agents. That's 50 different programs that are out there. They're written 2 different ways, and it's important you understand the difference. One is called admitted, and that is where the insurer sends to the Department of Insurance a filing of what rates they're going to use and what the policy forms look like. And they have to be approved. And anytime there's an increase or change in the forms or the rates, it has to be approved by the Department of Insurance. But the catastrophe type programs are like earthquake, like flood. They're not like your homeowners or your auto, where they have so much data And it doesn't just happen once, it's happening all the time, accidents or fires or whatever. Whereas floods, though this year with the hurricane season, it's been a record, but floods is like this, earthquakes is like this, you have the event and then nothing, then you have it. And that's harder to come up with rates. So what you find is typically they're in what's called a non-admitted market. And what the non-admitted market is basically, I, as an insurer, do not have to file my rates. I don't have to file my forms because that way I can be more nimble to change what they are. The downside of non-admitted is if I have a policy on you and I go belly up because I have so many claims I can't pay them anymore, I don't have access to what's called the state guarantee fund. And the state guarantee fund is for admitted carriers, which will cover claims if a carrier goes belly up. So that's a big thing that agents need to make sure they explain to their insureds, their policyholders, of the difference between admitted and non-admitted. But again, the beauty of the non-admitted is they can be more nimble and change the rates. But what has driven it is new technology, one of the things. As mentioned by Lynn, you saw those kind of, we call them the gray blob maps. Back in the 80s, those maps, we didn't have really good technology that could really define the geography or the modeling, define the flows. We have that now where we can fly an airplane and almost get the topography down to the foot using a thing called LIDAR. And our hydrologic and models are so much better than they were a long time ago. There are ways people can define what your first floor elevation is by a Google map or by a Zillow map, speaking of realtors. And so they're incorporating all this information about your home. So as an agent, insurance agent, I don't have to go get that information. I don't have to ask you for an elevation certificate, which slows down the whole process. And you as the property owner have to go pay for it before I can even give you a quote if you're in a high risk area. So this new technology is making it easier to underwrite the flood risk. Then the issue, and this kind of falls in your all ballpark here, is lender compliance. If I'm selling a house and they have a private flood policy, will the lender accept it? Well, we kept waiting and waiting for the lending regulators to come out with some guidance after the 2012 and 14 legislation that said, you know, you need to accept it. And they finally did last year, July, and basically gave guidance that said, if the policy is as broad as an NFIP policy, you must accept it, not may, you must accept it. And I'll mention the FHA is one that still didn't, but they're working on that. And so what we're finding is the carriers out there today, the private carriers, are writing policies that are not only as broad, but they're making themselves different than the NFIP, offering things that are even more than that. And I'm going to get into that. 4 basic policies I want to make you aware of that are out there. And these are Bruce Bender descriptions, not anything technical. One is the NFIP Me Too, where they took the wording straight as what's in the NFIP policy and copied it. That way it is exactly as broad as, and instead of putting the NFIP or FEMA as the insurer, they'll put their company name there. And that was kind of what it was like back in the 90s and the early 2000s, but now we're seeing different policies. Oh, another one that was out there and is actually out here in the Southwest area is called the differences in condition. So your homeowner, let's say, excludes earthquake, flood. In Florida, it might exclude sinkholes, volcano activity up in the Northwest. What a differences in condition, typically written by a Lloyd's, is that this policy will cover all those differences. So if it doesn't cover flood and earthquake, this policy, a DIC, differences of coverage, will. And there's been a couple programs that's been out there for probably 30, 40 years and been quite successful and are written in, here in Arizona. As I mentioned, we're seeing some homeowners carriers adding on some sort of flood coverage. Sometimes it's just a small amount. Others it's like in the B or C zones, the low, moderate risk zones. But the one we're seeing the most of is an NFIP, what I call NFIP plus. Taking what the NFIP has to offer and maybe making sure on the declaration page or putting an insert or somewhere indicating that it is as broad as, and then adding additional coverages. So what are those coverages? Oh, let me just, before I go into those coverages. So As mentioned in July, they finally made mandatory or came out with the regulations about accepting private flood. And you can download and read what they are, but basically it says if it's as broad as, then you must accept it. They could also provide a letter from the insurer saying this is as broad as. But I will say there is an exception. They have kind of like a star, and at the bottom the fine print says, however, if it's not, but you feel it still protects it, you can then accept it. So kind of a unique wording. Well, finally, the FHA just came out with ruling and for comment, and they're going to go the same direction as the rest of the regulators. So that has really made it easier for people to, insurers to sell, as well as property owners to write and have closings with private flood insurance. So what are those broader coverages? Higher limits. Remember I told you we're stuck at 250 for homes? Just FYI, I finished doing a study for the Office of the Flood Insurance Advocate at FEMA. And so these are some of the findings. Some of it I'd already had and just added to their study. The average building we're seeing are limits up to as much as $5 million. That's not excess. That's from $0 up to 5 million. Contents up to 250. And that TIV, that's total insured value, that's where they combine the building and contents together, up to 15 and 20. So they're providing a lot higher limits. Replacement cost. Remember, the NFIP only had replacement costs for just one scenario, principal residence. But in this case, replacement cost is being offered in most cases just like your homeowners does, building and on contents. The NFIP has some really specific rules on how you can and when you can cancel a policy. With the and basically what they're wanting to avoid is having somebody get it during flood season. So if you're over, let's say over in California, the rainy season supposedly is like November, December through April. Well, they don't want you then canceling in April, or those in the hurricane season, getting it in May, so it's effective from June to November, and then canceling it. The private carriers don't have that, have not seen it. They have allow you to cancel it at any time. They will collect premium for how long it's been written. And some of them do have a minimum earned that say, okay, we spent money doing underwriting, collecting all this information. We're going to collect a minimum earned, but the rest of it you'll get back. And I've talked to carriers, and I haven't talked to all 50, and I have yet to hear one say, oh yeah, we're seeing seasonal cancellations. So this concern that the NFIP had of seasonal cancellation doesn't seem to be playing out right now. Waiting period. Most of you know that unless it's like at a closing and required by the lender, which then it's a 0 waiting period, there's a 30-day waiting period. Except for maps, there's a 1-day waiting period after the map becomes effective if you're newly identified to be in a high risk and don't have a lender. But otherwise, the waiting period is 30. What we're finding with the private carriers is it ranges anywhere from 0 to about 2 weeks, but the average is about 0 or 5 at most. And those of you who've been in remember the program from long ago, when I was in it, it started, it was at 5. They increased it to 30 because when they had the great floods in 1993, 94, at least they were great then, down the Mississippi, people were watching the river overflow its banks, and what's it going to get to my town and overflow? Quick, they'll run out 5 days in advance and get a policy. So FEMA said, oh, we don't want that. But here with the private carriers, 0 to 5. So again, a benefit. But one we're seeing really is being creativeness is additional coverages. Right now, most of your homeowners, if you have a fire and you're outside and have to live outside your house while it's being repaired, you'll have a thing called additional living expense, and they'll cover going into an Airbnb or a hotel or wherever it might be. The NFIP does not have that. You might get it through some individual assistance and a grant, disaster grant, but it's not attached to the policy. What we're finding is many of these policies do offer, as sometimes or usually as an endorsement, additional living expense, a lot more coverage in the basement. One company has an endorsement called Flex Cash. Here's $10,000, do what you want with it. Another one says, hey, we'll include cleaning at your swimming pool after a flood. So a lot of more creative coverages, broader coverages, and the pricing is there as well. On top of that, they've made it really easy to quote. Right now, remember, I took 100+ questions. If you're in a high risk area, the agent's going to say, well, I can give you a quote, but you got to go get an elevation certificate. Then they have to go get one. If they don't have it, they have to pay several $100s to get it, then come back before they even get a quote. Here, they're using the data that's in the internet and some proprietary databases and are able to identify the flood risk of your building. So the agent doesn't have to go out there and get that information. And they're making it easy for even online. So here are 2 examples where basically I had 6 to 7 questions, and this isn't my mother. This is my mother-in-law's house in Florida. I should get her NFIP policy, but 2 different carriers in Florida, questions just like that. I got a quote, and pretty expensive. Yeah, she's in an A zone and she's kind of near the water. But how about Arizona? So here's some I just recently did of carriers. And it's a house in my neighborhood that's near a wash, but it's actually in a zone shaded X. So this one has it right, $812. But I can get that for a PRP right now. Now, it would not go below $800,000, which is interesting because the NFIP policy can go only up to $250. But that policy for $250 would be around $500. So it's a little more expensive, though I'm getting more coverage, but I don't have the flexibility. Here's another one where they didn't even ask for my address that I was using in the other example, and just did it by a zip code. And you will note that it's even more expensive, even more expensive. So be careful. Many times they are cheaper. But I like this interesting one is notice this is they're offering a 3-year policy where you're actually locking in that rate for 3 years, which the NFIP had a long time ago. So my point being here is lots of broad coverages. It looks really good, but just make sure they're rating it properly and you're getting a good price. I'm finding that many are more competitive in the zone A's than they are in the zone X's. For some reason. So just notice here that also the one on the right put me in my neighborhood in a zone A when in fact it's not. So just be careful looking at those. So a couple things I'll finish up with property that I want you guys to be aware of. One is if you have an NFIP policy or your client does, and they leave the NFIP because they're wooed by more coverage, higher limits, cheaper price for a private. And let's say 2 years later, the private carrier says, oh, I got to cut back. I can't write these many policies in this area. Or you've had a loss and I don't want you anymore. Then you come back to the NFIP. That's called a lapse in coverage. And if you were a pre-firm structure, or maybe you're one of those areas where the district has remapped and you're newly put into a high-risk flood area, but you rated yourself newly mapped procedure, which means you started at a preferred risk policy and slowly went up, you'd lose that rating option. You'd have to come back and be rated using the new maps. So it's a consideration that be careful right now. Congress is trying to fix that loophole, but we haven't passed an updated bill to fix that yet. The other is when you do come back, you've got a 30-day waiting period. So you've got a gap in coverage for coming back as well. And finally, by writing in a non-admitted market, there is that exposure that you don't have access to the state guarantee fund. So just be aware of that. Finally, I want to finish up with what is FEMA doing? How is FEMA looking to catch up with the 2020s? They are working on a thing called Risk Rating 2.0, where they are not going to use the flood zone anymore. They're not going to use the elevation certificate for rating anymore. They too have built up a proprietary database behind the green curtain, if you will, and will make it easy for agents in about 12 questions to come up with a rate. And rate will be based upon how far they are from the flooding source, as well as the elevation of that first floor. So again, the elevation certificate, if you have one and it gives a better rate, they'll use it. We don't know much more about that. I've been to several workshops and presented the private flood where FEMA then presented this. They are looking to release those rates this April, coming up April, and then next October, they'll make them effective. So the renewals will be going out sometime in August. If you want to stay up to date with it, I've got the link on the left, and Lynn and I will be sharing this PowerPoint with everyone, or sharing it with PAAR, and then they can share it out with anyone else. But I wanted to let you know FEMA is trying to go in the direction of private flood. So hopefully through this, you've got to understand that there is another market out there besides the NFIP. They're offering broader coverages, higher limits, sometimes better rates, but just know some of the potential limitations with the program. So with that, I'll finish up and see if there's any questions.
So far, we don't seem to have any questions. We had a comment about talking about the slide rule on our Facebook Live that's not showing up in the chat box, but not actually a question. So does anyone have any questions? Get them in there quick, guys.
No? Okay. Well, thank you so very much, Bruce. I appreciate it. A lot of great information, and I'm glad we're going to have the PowerPoint for those people that didn't get a chance to watch and listen. So thank you, Bruce and Lynn. And very, very nice presentations, both of you. Does anyone, let's see, before we move on, and again, thank you, Bruce. And before we move on, we wanted to, I personally have the privilege of recognizing a few of our incredible professionals here at PAAR. So please help me in congratulating our newest GRI recipients, Wendy Woolley, Carol Marks, and Sandy Keller, who are putting in the time to better their business. And so we want to congratulate them on their GRIs. So a big round of applause for them. Yay! Yes. And so let's see here. I'm having technical difficulties. So we want to thank everyone for joining this our membership event, and hope that you enjoyed the rest of your day. But before we go, I would like to make a short comment. For those of you who have heard of the DOJ and NAR's settlement, they're going to be going over the next 45 days to finalize all that, I believe, is the time frame. But basically, if you haven't heard about it, it's been all over PAAR and your email, so shame on you. But the whole thing is pretty basic here. I mean, we kind of recognize all of that, allowing all realtors access to properties out here. We already do that. Of course, they have to pay for the service for Supra, but all agents, whether they're part of our association or not, have access to all properties that are on the MLS. That we provide MLS listings regardless of the commission rate or whatever. All of it goes on our MLS. That's pretty standard, all standard stuff. The only thing really that I noticed a big change for out here is that the broker, the buyer broker commission is going to go public. So that will be something I'm assuming that what they're working towards is an opportunity for the buyer, something to be negotiated with the buyer and broker. But it's going to be a public, or it'll be available to the public for everybody to see. And part of that is there's a lot of agents that claim to their buyers that their services are free. It's paid for out of the listing broker commission, and the DOJ didn't really agree with that. being, the dollar issue. So there's not an argument anymore as to what is happening there. There is letting the buyer recognize that there is a commission. So that's what I get out of the different changes. I'm going to there's a lot of changes that are coming up, that one in the last 24 hours, but a lot of things that are coming up in the future and things that have been happening. So I am going to give Amanda the opportunity to tell you about everything that's been happening. She's on committees and stuff for NAR. She's very familiar with what's been happening. And if you have any questions after this, feel free to call her. She loves to get phone calls to explain what's happening. So I will give it to you, Amanda, and thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm going to let her sign us out afterwards. And thank you for coming for our last membership meeting of 2020. Tina is so happy and eager to start out the 2021 hosting these events. She's just been so jealous all year. So you all take good care, and let's give the mic to Amanda.
Hey guys, so we've had a few things, and we have been doing lots of information about what's going on our Facebook page, on the Recess channel that you guys hopefully follow, via emails. We've been sending things to your brokers. But some of the highlights, Jeff just went over the DOJ thing that was yesterday. If you have additional questions or want to see stuff and you can't find the resources, all of the staff know where they are, and we're happy to show you the videos from NAR, show you the different guidelines, show you what it's going to look like. As we get more information over the next 45 days and know more what the final is going to look like, we will be releasing that. And I know you guys are busy and you have a million things coming at you, but make sure that you're looking for those updates specifically about that so that you're prepared for those changes. As for the other changes that Jeff mentioned, we had the Code of Ethics change last week. The NAR Board of Directors met, and we made a change to the standard of practice related to the Code of Ethics. So the Code of Ethics, it's basically a policy, a new personal conduct policy that's going to be part of that, addressing discrimination. So it basically means, which I don't think any of our amazing realtors would be doing this anyways, but you can't discriminate outside of the real estate transaction either. The way the Code of Ethics has always been written, and the standards of practice has always said, during a real estate transaction, you can't discriminate against one of the protected classes. Now it's 24 hours a day. You should not be using hate speech or discriminating against those protected classes. If you have questions about that, we have some great links and stuff. I'm happy to send them to you if you can't find them elsewhere, but we have posted them in different places. They're available on nar.realtor as well. But that's the big change for Code of Ethics. At last week's Board of Directors meeting at the national level, we also had 8 proposals go for the MLS. And most of those, luckily, our volunteer leaders the last 3.5 to 4 years have been doing some phenomenal work, and some of us have seen a lot of change in our MLS. But we saw that those changes and the work that our leaders have been doing and what they've been partnering with the staff to do were great changes, because those are things that NAR is now going to mandate, and we would have had to have in place by January 1st of 2021. So good job to all the people who have been serving on the MLS committee the last few years, and the Board of Directors, because their foresight and their vision and their ability to partner with myself and the rest of our staff to make some of those changes and make some really hard decisions has put us in a great position. There are still a few areas where you will see some changes. We luckily instituted the different levels of fines and things last year in August, and then we put in our violation citation system, and then actually started fining in February of this year. All of those things are part of the guidance that's coming through, and having different levels based on how egregious the fines are or the violations are, so to speak. So those things are all good. One thing that we will be doing is, if you do the same violation 3 times of an administrative function, we will be adding a hearing process. So be on the lookout for that, because you will actually have to show up, and your broker will have to come with you to talk about that thing that you've done 3 times in a row and why you're continuing to have that problem. We may have another hearing process that we implement for a higher number of violations that are repeat offenders, specifically for listing entry. But that's a little bit different, because we know sometimes that's a typo and we're all really busy and those kind of things. So those won't probably be held to the same thing or the same standard. The MLS committee and the Board of Directors have to look at all this and decide exactly what we're going to do, where there is some area for us to make local decisions. Where the NAR mandated things, those things will be coming out. So if you don't subscribe or open the MLS progress report that comes out every month, I highly encourage you to make sure you are the next few months. Actually, I encourage you to every month. But if you're not going to do it for me every month, please make sure you're doing it the next few months as we get ready for that. So those are some changes. We also had some changes made to core standards. For those of you that aren't familiar, core standards are the minimum standards that we as a local association have to meet to continue to be realtors and to have our charter under the National Association of Realtors. Each year we submit a really exciting application. Ask Tina and Jeff, they got to review it this year, showing them all the examples and all the things that we did to meet those minimum standards. They added some things to those minimum standards. So some changes you're going to see between in 2021 based on those is we're going to be hopefully doing some more diversity and equity and inclusion type events as we continue to make sure that people know that we believe in fair housing, that we believe there is no home for hate in the real estate industry, and we are going to continue to protect everyone, no matter what their background or life choices are. So those things you're going to see, and we're going to be doing a lot of that. There's some other changes that you'll see with core standards, most of those, but those events and things we'll be offering and doing some different things. We'll definitely be having, we've always had fair housing events almost every year, and we've done those kind of things, but we're going to be amping that up a little bit to adhere to the new requirements and to make sure that that our community knows that we believe in that and that we are firm believers that everyone has a right to a place to call home. And I know we all believe that, and that all of our realtors are out there selling because we love giving the dream of home ownership, and that's who we are as realtors. So that is actually some exciting changes. There are some other things we'll be making some changes to. Recently, we released our strategic plan for the next 3 years. We will be making an amendment to that next year. The board of directors and our officers will be working on that and deciding how to amend that to also have a piece that includes diversity and inclusion and equity events. So please, if you have questions about these, you want to see the resources, you want to see what's going on, I am more than happy to walk you through. If you have a question I can't answer, I'm more than glad to knock on some doors or make some phone calls to NAR to make sure that we have that information for you as we go through this. I know tons of brokers gave me a call yesterday about the DOJ thing, and it was great questions and great information. And so as you look at these and you look at the different things, if you have questions, please just let us know. We're super glad to help any way we can. The staff is as aware as they are. I try to keep them as in the loop as they can too, so that if I'm not here or if I'm already talking to somebody about that, they can give you the information and the links and help you with that as well. Our volunteer leaders are also in the loop. The board has all the resources and things as well. So if you want to reach out to one of them, I'm sure they'd be happy to forward you the emails and things and the information that they have. We appreciate you being here today. We hope you learned something. I loved hearing about the private flood insurance programs. As a girl from South Alabama and growing up on the coast, flood insurance is near and dear to my heart. So knowing that there's some private programs and that we're taking a shift that way. I know NAR, if you haven't noticed, every year we're trying to get them to extend the program and actually look at what we can do better with the flood insurance program. So I think the move to some of those private programs was great news, and I hope that we all learned something that we can use back. And I really appreciate our mayors from Prescott and Prescott Valley joining us today. They're both really close to the realtor family. One is a realtor and one married one of us. So we're happy to have them with us and do that. If you have any questions, need anything else from PAAR, please reach out. A big thank you to Jeff Bashaw for being a great 2020 president. We couldn't have had a better person in the seat as we navigated what is now a crazy virtual world. And Tina has been doing an excellent job getting ready to take the reins in 2021. And I know we're going to continue to see phenomenal things for PAAR as we continue to not only meet the requirements that NAR and different organizations give us, but exceed them and find ways to serve our realtors and our affiliates better and better every day. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye.